54 EFL teams led by virtual managers including footballers, creators and fans are now down to 8 in the EFL Football Manager Cup. The draw for the quarterfinal took place yesterday, conducted by our very own Miles Jacobson and special guest Scott Minto, and they pulled out some cracking ties.
I think in real life you'd struggle to call these, wouldn't you? These are really good ties.
Now we know the quarterfinal lineup, let's take a look at those ties in a little bit more detail and how the teams involved got here. So let's kick things off by talking about Forest versus Middlesbrough. I mean, two championship powerhouses anyway, and in this competition, they produced their fair share of entertainment. Joe Lolly's Nottingham Forest last time out had an absolute roller coaster of a game against Mansfield. It was bonkers. One of the maddest games of Football Manager I've ever seen.
We had red cards, disallowed goals, a penalty shootout, which seemed like it went on forever. But Lolly's boys avoided the banana skin.
I mean, he's been pretty vocal, hasn't he, on social? He gave it the big one after they played Leeds in the first round. After the Mansfield game, I think he showed just how nervous and how seriously he was taking it as well. He said like he was on the floor when Grabber missed in extra time. I mean, we've all been there, haven't we, in those positions.
All our managers today, but especially Lolly, have proven that they're just as human as the rest of us.
His virtual self, he's not prone to pull any punches there. He dropped himself for the Southend game, brought himself back into this one. It'll be interesting to see if he sticks with him up front for the remainder of the tournament, or if he has to warm the bench. Should we move on to talk about Middlesbrough? I mean, they've sort of crept under the radar a little bit, I think. They've produced some really good performances, clinical in front of goal, pretty well organised at the back. I mean, what are your thoughts on them?
100% they've slipped under the radar. I mean, they've got the Cup's joint top goal scorer in Britta Sumberlonger, someone that'll be familiar with all FM players, whether you bought him or he scored against you even. Certainly a tricky team. You could easily see them beating Forest here and going on to potentially reach the final.
So let's move on to two teams who definitely know where the back of the net is. I mean, both have been pretty free scoring during the tournament so far. Brentford and Preston. Let's start with Preston, who are not only the tournament's top scorers, they also have the tournament's joint top scorer individually as with Daniel Johnson. So, I mean, they're clearly not shy about putting balls in the back of the net.
And not only have they got Daniel Johnson on 6 goals so far, but they've got Alan Brown on 5, and they've been a real surprise package, I think it's fair to say, making it all look a little bit too easy.
Brentford have sort of grown into the tournament a little bit. They had a pretty tough game, you'd say, early on, 2-2 draw after extra time with Shrewsbury, then came through on pens, but they had a lot easier time of it against QPR. They were pretty impressive in front of goal.
Yeah, I mean, they've probably got one of the best squads in the EFL, to be honest. They've got Watkins and Ben Ramo probably represent some of the highest rated players. And again, in real world and the FM worlds, they often do the business, and they have in this tournament as well. So they're certainly a team to look out for. You mentioned that heated derby win against QPR. It certainly sort of spilled out on social media with the Brentford admin taking the opportunity to gloat, which we'd like to see. This is a real competition. It's certainly getting the treatment it deserves.
Huddersfield versus Fulham, two teams who've been pretty industrial, should we say, during the tournament so far.
Fulham, of course, managed by this country star Charlie Cooper. I mean, he promised medieval football, and he's definitely delivering.
4-4-2, none of this ticky-tacky nonsense.
My philosophy is, why score more goals than you need to? What's the point in winning by 5 goals when you can easily win by 1?
It's certainly an interesting way of looking at it. But you mix that with the fact that they've probably got the best squad in the EFL, at least on paper anyway, with Mitrovic, Knockaert and Cavallero up top. So yeah, this would be a great game. I wonder if they can see off Huddersfield. What do you reckon?
To be fair to them, they're pretty dominant in terms of the match stats, but not the most clinical in front of goal. So you wonder if that might make them come unstuck against a Fulham side who are the complete opposite. They are very clinical in front of goal. They just don't want to create many chances.
Yeah, it's ironic as well. Huddersfield obviously managed by their main man and striker, Carlin Grant. So it's a bit odd that they can't seem to score in front of goal. Grant, of course, who in the last round missed a penalty with himself. So it'll be interesting to see if he'll be taking himself off pens in the future. The footballer versus the TV star. We'll see who comes out on top and into the next round. Last but not least, we've got Swansea v Birmingham. Swansea, a team who have not conceded so far in the competition, and they're sort of quietly going about their business. Fan and boss Gareth Richards boasts a real impressive CV. He's won it all on Football Manager, which is how we got the gig. So hopefully he can add the EFL FM Cup to his CV.
Yeah, and he'll come up against a decent Birmingham side as well, managed by Lee Camp. So it's another one where it's like, professional footballer versus fan. So we're going to see just what these professional footballers are made of. I mean, Lee Camp's been pretty entertaining throughout this whole thing. He's been one of my favourites to watch. He's done loads of pre and post-match interviews with all sorts of props. He had his gloves on, the goalkeeper gloves on for the first one. Some sort of Disney princess microphone for the second one. Car window for the third one. I mean, what's he got up his sleeve for this one? God knows. But
that's the question on everyone's lips, I think. What will he do next?
He's a character. And his team has been, pretty entertaining as well. They came within a minute of getting knocked out in the first round, picked up a good head of steam after that, and now look, pretty well settled into the competition. We said earlier about, the player-manager aspect. He's one of a few who are left standing. Carlin Grant, Joe Lolly, and him. We've seen Romain Sawyers has fallen by the wayside. Adam Armstrong also exited the competition. So, I mean, who do you think is going to be the last of the player managers left standing?
Well, it's a difficult one. I wonder whether we'll have a player v player final perhaps. I think if we're talking about who's left, I reckon it's got to be Lolly. If he's got anything to do with how much he's been talking on social, I mean, he best be the last one standing, otherwise he's got some pelters coming his way with how confident he's been. But I think he's impressed the most so far.
One other thing about Joe Lolly though, he's not just good at FM, he's also a lovely bloke off the pitch. Him and Adam Armstrong actually have donated to the charity partner of the EFL FM Cup, which is Mind. They both put their hands in their pockets and gave really generous donations, which is great to see.
It's a good opportunity to say thank you to them, but also to everyone who's donated so far, or even if you just shared the link or read a bit more about the great cause that are partnering this cup. It's really the real reason why we set this up, so it's great to be able to give them a bit of a push that they need in these weird times, I think.
Absolutely, and if you do want to donate whatever you can afford to support the great cause, as Dom said there, then we put a link in the description below which you can click on, take you to the Just Giving page, and you can donate from there. So here's a reminder of those quarter-final fixtures. They'll be taking place Tuesday, 12th of May and Wednesday the 13th of May. So be sure to follow @FootballManager on social to keep across all of those quarter-final ties, as well as how you can get involved in the semi-finals and finals, which are taking place this coming weekend, 16th and 17th of May.
To see who gets in the final and brings home the trophy.